syncretic India will always exist. However, the overarching identities, especially on the Hindu side currently, because Muslims are fairly scared right now, especially in North India. I don't talk about the South. The South is very different. The overarching identity in North India of the Hindu side is become very militant for some section of those who are engaged in a political project to transform the nature of discourse, to transform the nature of the nation state. There has been a very dramatic transformations since I wrote the book.
Hello friends, my name is Abhay Kumar and today my guest is Saba Naqvi. She is a well-known journalist. She has worked for a long time with reputed magazines of this country. Outlook is one of them. Thank you very much for finding time and talking with us.
No, it's my pleasure, Abhay.
In the book you have said that you were looking for the syncretic culture, okay? And now the book was printed some 10 years back. Are you willing to revisit your thinking?
No, I will tell you.
Yes.
Even in the book then, I was not saying that there is no hard identity. The book was done in the context, the journey was done in the context of the demolition of the Babri Mosque and the changing politics of India. I was saying there is a hard identity, there is a puritanical Islamic identity also, there is a hard Muslim identity becoming more so. But there are also, India also has this. India has communities which are a synthesis of both. India has shrines which are a synthesis of both. India has musical traditions which synthesize Islamic, Muslim. In the book I found a Muslim goddess. Where else do you have a Muslim goddess?
So you are referring to Sundarban?
I am referring to the Bon Bibi tradition of Sundarbans.
Yes.
They say she is a Muslim. It is haram under the form under Islam. What is understood to be Islam, but people they say she is a Muslim.
So are you willing to say that that India, that syncretic India is now being changed into...
So I think syncretic India will always exist. However, the overarching identities, especially on the Hindu side currently, because Muslims are fairly scared right now, especially in North India. I don't talk about the South. The South is very different. The overarching identity in North India of the Hindu side is become very militant for some section of those who are engaged in a political project to transform the nature of discourse, to transform the nature of the nation state. There has been a very dramatic transformations since I wrote the book.
Okay. So at one place in your book you have said that today I must accept that somewhere along the journey I was boxed into being a Muslim.
No, what I mean is I am from a very liberal background.
Okay.
I was, even though my father's family is from Uttar Pradesh, but I'm raised in Delhi. Went to English medium schools, whatever, the best colleges in Delhi University, liberal family. But when I stepped out into the world, then it became a matter of that are you Muslim, the name is all that was
You are referring to one Agarwal family where you went?
No, I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to the fact that I was only seen as a Muslim by some people.
Okay, okay.
And the kind of trolling today, now we come back to today, the trolling, the thing is just because of my name. It's got nothing to do very often with what I've said. It's just because I'm a Muslim who is in the public discourse. I do television shows sometimes. I write, I have a voice, I have a substantive presence on social media, it's enough. Just being a Muslim now invites from a certain section of Indian society a threatening tone. So yes, one has ended up being boxed into being a Muslim means that because I saw the transformation of the Muslim community being profiled so badly and the suffering that they've had to undergo and being pushed out and out one step after the other. So in that sense I have become we all feel that the country is changing. I mean,
so if a journalist, well-known journalist like Saba Naqvi, if she feels threatened, what about the conditions of common Muslim?
Yeah, exactly, and I am not just don't just feel threatened. I have been threatened. It's not I am threatened every day.
Yes.
There are two dimensions to that threat. I don't want to take the names of other, but if you notice, women journalists, Muslim prominent women journalists with social media profiles will be more threatened than Muslim men. You know, there will be. They will not. The Muslim men may not have acquired that level of following also, but women are objectified. Number one, women will be more trolled. On top of that, they are Muslim women with an opinion, with a voice of their own. It is too much. So we are targets. Some me and some other Indian Muslim women colleagues.
So this incident is linked to the wider question that what I have said in introductions also, that IT cell is deciding the content of, let's say, journalism. So
Yes, I agree with you to a large extent. And today, because the newspaper, the traditional old media, the newspaper industry has been financially crippled.
okay.
They are not financially viable any longer. Partly advertising and economy is down, then readership has declined. Everything has moved online to new media. The new generation will not be consuming newspapers. So all that their income is dependent only on government advertising. Now, the best papers are vying to get advertising from the Uttar Pradesh government today, which is the government of Adityanath Yogi. So, what hope can you have to have a free space or a free voice? It's hard to see. Occasionally, sometimes they get somebody in, but overwhelmingly, they cannot be too critical.
Okay, so Indian democracy is celebrated and the argument is given that, India has free press and we have such a long history of having great journalists. Why this situation has come? What is your reflection as a journalist?
I think Indian democracy is very badly challenged. Very badly challenged right now. Number one, all our institutions are bending backward. There are some very classic things happening. We may have elections, but elections are not the end all and be all of democracy. First of all, we have the us versus them, the classic template ki you have a community to polarize against, which is Muslims. Number two, you have the cult of leadership being promoted, day in and day out, which is above any question. Number three, the leader does not speak to the press or answer public questions. The leader only gives speeches. Number four, our institutions are bent backwards. We are heading to an election in the state of Uttar Pradesh at a time when the chief election commissioner was serving under the chief minister of the state. So there is nothing called conflict of interest that we look out for. There is a ruthless capture of institutions. I'm not saying that the BJP is the only party which has done it. The Congress brought us to this point where, because they didn't safeguard institutional independence, autonomy, and they allowed an economy of crony capitalism to thrive. So when somebody who was better at it comes along, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party, they are working with all the templates that the
So are you
Congress
saying that
created.
this party is likely to continue to dominate the Indian politics?
Right now, yes, because they have all the money also.
Okay.
We have a system of cronyism in this country.
Okay.
Right now, elections are not so important. There's a mistake we all make. We say, Delhi election, BJP हार गई, बंगाल election, BJP हार गई. अब अगर उत्तर प्रदेश हारेगी तो क्या होगा? कुछ असर पड़ा दिल्ली के बाद? हेट क्राइम्स तो आज ज़्यादा लग रहे हैं.
जी.
बंगाल के बाद कुछ एक दिन की लोगों ने कहा हाँ बीजेपी को हरा सकते हैं. ट्रू, ममता बनर्जी and the Trinamool Congress defeated the BJP. Electorally in the first past the post system, but the vote share of the BJP has gone up in the Hindu community of Bengal.
Okay.
If you look, you are
it is
absolutely.
right. Yeah.
So today Arvind Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party defeated the BJP in Delhi, decisively so. But Arvind Kejriwal is silent on many issues because he knows that a certain BJP constituency, way of thinking has come alive.
Yes.
And he wants to survive and grow in national politics. So he is trapped. He doesn't say things about hate crimes and all inside Delhi.
And he's also saying that he will build up some big temple somewhere in Uttarakhand.
He may do that. No, I think he's talking about some Hindu leader. Whatever it is. I don't know if you know this, but I don't think Arvind Kejriwal has an ambitions of creating a Hindu Rashtra. He has ambitions of remaining in power and expanding. Because society has transformed, He knows society is changing. So he may have won an election because he evaded the Muslim issue. He evaded the Shaheen Bagh issue. He evaded CAA.
Yes.
He did not touch those issues. He managed to win
Yes.
on other
And
issues.
during Delhi riots also, his role was seen partisan.
During Delhi riots, he stayed out of it. He does not want to get into the Hindu-Muslim issue. He does not want to touch. So Muslims in Delhi feel that he's not on their side. Anyway, I don't want to critique Arvind Kejriwal. I have written a book on him, so I understand his politics and his thinking also. But beyond that, so today elections are not the only guarantee. It is a mistake to say that elections ke basis par BJP will be defeated.
No.
It is not being defeated. It lost in Delhi. It lost in Bengal. It lost Jharkhand. Do you see any step? Maharashtra has gone away from them.
Rajasthan
But
also.
the agenda, once they control the center and they control the dominant narrative and they control media and they control this social media ecosystem, today a human being's footprint, none of us can be invisible. Our footprint is in the social media.
Okay.
This is the real thing.
So, in one of your interviews on that book, Shades of Saffron, you have said that covering BJP is more interesting than other parties.
I was talking about the old BJP.
Yes.
When the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP was formed in 1980, just to refresh your memory. Before that was the Jan Sangh,
Yes, yes.
which merged into the Janata Party.
Yes.
And then it died because then the Janata Party split. The Bharatiya Janata Party was formed with Atal Bihari Vajpayee as president in 1980. It's a young party compared to the other parties. It has the Jan Sangh RSS connection. From the time that the Ram Janmabhoomi movement began to the time that Mr. Vajpayee came to power and then his years in power, it was the direct opposite of what you see today. A prime ministership is the direct opposite. Mr. Vajpayee had the most open PMO. Even Manmohan Singh's PMO was not as open.
Okay. And you said that journalists can go and can meet.
Journalists could regularly go and meet people. Whereas today it's the most shut, nobody can ask him a question. BJP had multiple power centers. Here there's one man. It is actually, so in those days it seemed that the BJP with its ideological positioning was the opposite of this high command culture that Congress had. But today there is a high command which is higher than anything else in the BJP.
Okay.
So the Vajpayee, Advani, there were multiple power centers. As a reporter, I used to go to Jhandewala, meet people. I used to go to the BJP office. The first time I met Narendra Modi there, he was Sangathan Mantri in 98 or something. So I had the job of covering a beat, and it was a very, very interesting beat. You had people like Jaswant Singh. One person is speaking with a high British accent.
Yes.
Somebody, Uma Bharti, who's giving galis in Hindi.
Yes, yes.
So BJP was like that. So it's not, you had Pramod Mahajan, Arun Jaitley, always cracking jokes about what is happening around him. He's passed away. These were...
No, but I was referring to the fact that you said that it is a party based on ideology. It is a party based on some agenda, whether you like it or don't like it.
No, that is true. It was always based on
Yes.
ideology. But today, what you see today, it's a closed party. It's not a party. I feel sorry for the reporters. Nobody knows what's happening. Even the other ministers don't know what is happening. At that time, everybody was leaking information. So it was very good for a reporter. The best regime to cover in recent political history. And I don't think you will doubt, you will find it out. Even if you go and find a veteran Congress journalist like Harish Khare, he will also, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's PMO was leaking stories, Advani was leaking stories, everybody was leaking stories. Fantastic years for a journalist.
So many people would be interested to know, have you ever written or made a request to BJP office that you want to interview, let's say top leadership like Amit Shah, Modi?
No, I have not. Fortunately for me,
Would you like to do it?
no, not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Because they are not interested in conversation.
I have met Amit Shah at the time he was Tadi Par.
Okay.
I used to meet him in Arun Jaitley's room in Parliament. Arun Jaitley was the leader of the opposition. Amit Shah, if you recall, the history was not allowed to be in Gujarat for some years.
Yes, yes.
So he used to hang around in the LOP, his room in Parliament. So we used to meet him, he was very talkative and all that. But nobody thought he would become what he has become. Right? He used to hang around there.
Okay.
But the thing is, look, in 2014 they came to power in the center. In 2015, I quit my job as political editor in Outlook magazine. My editor had already passed away, Ms. Shri Vinod Mehta, and the media was changing. There were
Yes.
different kind of pressures.
Yes, yes.
So that business of access journalism, which is important to do when you are a reporter, and I had so much access. You know, even before Mr. Jaitley died, I just met him recently. I kept up with. There were people in the BJP you could meet, even if you're ideologically opposed to them, because they treated you like a journalist. Today, it's not possible.
Okay.
The caliber of the people, they are yes men and yes women. So I
But
don't.
they would say that, okay, Amit Shah or let's say Prime Minister Narendra Modi, if they are not talking with, let's say, Saba Naqvi, they are connecting with large number of people, their followers are that's increasing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. But they're not answering any questions, no, which is the democratic norm.
Okay. So how far do you think that the opposition is right in criticizing the government for not holding, particularly
No, of course that's right in a democracy.
that the Prime
leadership-
Minister has not held any press conference?
Of course, it's a valid point. It's not as if the problem that we face every time we critique the BJP is that the Congress has done a little bit of it in the past.
Acha.
Let me put it this way:
Okay.
if Congress was COVID, this is Delta variant.
Okay.
Don't first round Delta variant. Huh?
Okay.
So Congress has done everything, not allowing scrutiny of political finance. In my view, one of the most critical reasons for the decline of public life is that there has been no accounting for money that goes into political parties' funding. That's one of the critical reasons.
Okay.
As someone who's covered politics, so in the old days, people would be caught with suitcases of cash. Narasimha Rao was caught with somebody. There was this all sorts of Harshad
but-
Mehta scams. All these things people were caught. Now it's electoral bonds. In 2017, the Bharatiya Janata Party created a new entity called electoral bonds. Look at the data. All the bonds are going to them.
And one day I was passing through Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Marg and somebody told me that this is the BJP office which has got all the equipments of the party which can boast in the world. It has got all the facilities.
Yes,
so from where the money
I've been to the BJP. BJP is the richest party. There's nowhere. It is in the income tax statement.
Okay.
In 2014, according to data, it's all in my book on the BJP.
Okay.
You will find BJP Incorporated. There's a chapter. There's a chapter. In 2014 only they break the bank. They become the richest party. They've not even won an election. They spend more on the election according to official income submitted, not even the unofficial money that candidates put into daru and booze and kambal, whatever, you know. They became the richest party, and in 2019, the Bharatiya Janata Party, according to data, Bloomberg and all have done articles. 2019, India spent more on its elections than the US spent
Yes.
in the Donald Trump
Yes.
election.
Yes. Yes.
So that is the situation. So this is Hindutva and cronyism and capitalism.
So you have said in your interview also that Congress has ruled for this country for so many decades, I think 4 decades, and the party says that they don't have money. So where the money has gone? Why BJP has got so much
The
money?
BJP, they centralized it, no?
Okay.
They're not running away with it. I mean, I'm just speculating, but you know, all those Congress people, they ran away with the money. Somebody built something there. Money was hidden, maybe somewhere here and there. Here it's all central. It's for the national vision. It is there, but you know, do you see Mr. Adani? Who was Mr. Adani till 7 years ago? He's getting every airport in India.
Okay.
If there is not cronyism right now, it's Hindutva and crony capitalism.
Okay.
That is the key thing about this government. The money, they can buy up everything.
Okay, so how to save Indian democracy from this crony capitalism, party and corporate coming together? Your some gyan as a journalist.
I think this cycle will have to burn itself out. There is very little people can do to stand in the path.
So like a phenomena, it will come or it will go.
I'm not sure if it will go, it will change us, but it has already changed us. In the Hindi belt,
Okay.
it has not changed people in the east, and those where regional identities are intact, it has not had this they're trying, but it's not had this transformative basis. But there's an incremental growth there also in this idea. But the Hindi belt, Because it is the politics of failure. It is the politics of loss of hope. It is the politics of poverty. You have given people no jobs. You have done nothing for them over the years. Mandal was this great hope that everybody is going to.
Yes.
And Mandal did have some transformation. I have covered Bihar, where you come from.
And for me, 80% of Muslims getting reservations under Mandal Commission after partition. So I find such recommendation very revolutionary.
Yeah, they do. So I support Mandal.
Yes.
I still remember in his later years, Lalu Prasad Yadav was so badly critiqued. But I knew Lalu very well. I've travelled with him during one of his elections and all of that. But he gave people that sense of pride.
Yes.
That they did not have to sit down if a Bhumihar entered the railway compartment.
Okay.
I think those were very intangible things that happened. Mayawati had a historic role.
Okay.
These were intangible things that happened. Because my family also has a village. Dalits would not come near. We also have a village home. Would not come in certain parts of Uttar Pradesh. That is, atrocities take place even now. But the level of empowerment, psychological empowerment, has been tremendous. But yet, so Mandal has done that, but we moved on to the next cycle.
Okay.
But there is very little in terms of economic opportunities, very little in terms of education, public health service, nothing. So the only thing you can do is give them another identity, which is Musalman ko to theek kar diya.
Okay.
That I think is the Hindi belt is the saddest place of all.
Okay. So two things flow from your argument. You have said that Musalman ko to maar diya, Musalman is being demonized.
In the Hindi belt.
Hindi belt, okay, Hindi belt. But the secular parties, their role is also not very satisfactory also.
Cronyism.
Okay. And nobody is even speaking up. Whether they are able to make changes or not, that history will decide. But they have no courage to speak up. There is a competition in Uttar Pradesh that who will build bigger temple. So is it not also very frustrating?
You see the courage over this secularism which many people critique. I agree, it is there. But the problem is, what are you doing in this changing society if you wish to survive with some kind of you are called a Muslim lover at the drop of a hat, which is today an abuse. You know, you are speaking to me after the events in Afghanistan. Today, what is happening with Afghanistan and India? Taliban is now an issue in Uttar Pradesh. It is Taliban is superimposed on Muslims.
And 14 Muslims have been arrested as well. And several Muslim leaders were booked under sedition charges. Nobody is asking, let's say, the External Affairs Ministry, what is their position. They are saying just wait and watch. But Muslims are being caught and they are being asked, okay, what is your opinion about that?
So we are having this conversation in the midst of an entirely transformation of a nation building project.
Okay.
The extent to which it succeeds is, we don't know. But in the Hindi belt, psychologically, it is already very successful.
Okay.
The belief that there should be a strong leader, there should be a Hindu first state, has got a lot of support in this part of the world. I don't think it has support in Bengal, because I traveled a lot during the Bengal election, up to a point, you know. But it's obviously not a South Indian thing, but in the Hindi region, Hindi belt, it has a lot of support.
Okay, so in Hindi belt, the support why the Hindutva forces are getting from the people, one contributing factor is also Hindi press also. And you have mostly written in English press. Why Hindi press is left untouched by the liberals? You read Jansatta, you read Hindustan, you read Navbharat Times. They are carrying the same agenda. You will hardly find articles critical of the policies of the government. Why?
So who makes up the press? Who are the people who spread the agenda? I would say, even those many
we have got Tahalka, we have got Outlook, we have got Karma.
Hindi press is important.
Yes.
Hindi press is important. Who are the people? It is the Savarnas who run the press.
Okay.
People of certain who are also have an ideological predisposition towards the idea of a Hindu first nation. Okay. They suffered during the age of Mandal.
Yes.
Mandal, there was suddenly, as it is reservation, and then Mandal politics, when that was dominant, they were told that your importance is no longer there. The Hindutva framework, the Hindutva model for Hindi belt politics gives the Savarna their due place in the Hindu hierarchy, even as it is empowering non-dominant OBC and Dalit castes.
Okay.
even as it's empowering them, that is non-Yadavs reaching out to them through direct monetary gain, through direct speaking representation, but it keeps the hierarchy intact. Whereas the language of Dravida politics, first in Tamil Nadu, and the language of Mandal politics tells the Brahmin, you don't count. You cannot win an election. You are electorally useless. So now, whereas the language of Hindutva does not do that. Even if the BJP does play a role in pushing OBC forces, in trying to empower them, but they keep the hierarchy, it is done within the Hindu hierarchy.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Savarna support for the BJP project.
So this is linked to your concern that Indian media, particularly mainstream media, is not democratized. It is not democratized. It is still being ruled by a few upper caste people, and you will hardly find Dalit, let's say.
Absolutely shocking.
Yes, Dalit
And even
editor.
what is shocking to me is even the liberal spaces where you have the online media. Some of them I have not seen any evidence that they have made an outreach to non-subaltern communities to say you become a journalist here. Do they make an outreach?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I have not seen those prominent voices. Are you telling me that there are no Dalits who can write in good English and produce articles? Of course they are there. But the control is still in the hands of the traditional Savarna elites on both sides.
And I was reading Mandal Commission recommendation a few days back, and one of the point of Mandal is that people coming from deprived background, if they reach the top or if they reach the place where policies are being made, they are great asset for the whole team, because they have first hand knowledge of the suffering of the people.
Yeah.
So if a journalist from, let's say, Dalit community or backward community or from rural areas, if that person comes and write, even if he has some errors in writing something, that editor can check. But the newsroom is not giving the opportunity
They
to
don't.
write
The
and express.
newsroom, the media is one of the most casteist setups. You know, tragically. My closest friends, but I go, they're all Brahmins. Kya करें? There are some few Muslim journalists here and there. लेकिन सब जगह liberals भी Brahmins हैं, conservative भी Brahmins हैं, सब जगह media space में पूरा domination है. मैं आपको ये बता रही हूँ कि हिंदी बेल्ट में वजह इसकी ये है कि जो हिंदी बेल्ट में मंडल के बाद जो जातिवाद का जो उभर के आया, लेकिन हिंदुत्व का डिस्कोर्स ब्राह्मण के पोजीशन को चैलेंज नहीं करता है. मंडल का डिस्कोर्स करता था, द्रविड़ा पॉलिटिक्स का डिस्कोर्स करता था, ये नहीं चैलेंज करता है. उसको बोला जा रहा है कि आप अहम हैं, आप भी हमारा नैरेटिव बनाइए. मतलब they may represent OBCs because you cannot retain this level of power without representing, and they're very smart in their social outreach, but they're still telling the Savarna, you are still on top.
Yes, it is happening also. It is key posts are being given to them. They are formulating the policies, and they are just.
Whereas Mandal was different.
Yes.
Mandal had it smelled of a rebellion. It smelled of a revolution, but also the weakness of the leaders, you know, fighting among themselves. We again get back structurally. We get back to the problem of political finance. सब उसी में फंस गए. मायावती पॉलिटिकल फाइनेंस में फंसी हुई हैं, मुलायम सिंह की पार्टी, लालू प्रसाद की पार्टी. ये जो अनअकाउंटेड वेल्थ जो कांग्रेस के ज़माने से आपने पॉलिटिशियंस को अलाउ किया है, आपने कहा आरटीआई पॉलिटिकल फाइनेंस में नहीं जाएगी, टू कीप दिस, दैट इज द रीजन फॉर द hollowing out of Indian democracy, in my belief.
Okay, so in your book you have said that your family had members from, let's say, different faith, and it is very composite culture. Your father believed one faith, your mother believed another faith, and in family also people were divided on ideological political line also. Some were supporters of the Congress, another were supporters of the, let's say, the Communist Party, the left also. So you mentioned it somewhere that there was some kind of a split. So this is linked with general questions that the Muslim of this country have always supported secular parties. They have
Yes.
supported left, they have supported Congress, they have supported parties of the social justice.
Yes, yes.
But they are still the most marginalized community. And now the BJP is saying that you come to us because the secular parties have cheated you, they have used as a vote bank. So in this complex situation, what should be the way out? What will be your advice for the Muslims community?
It's a very hard question. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay, your reflections, your reflections.
I think we are standing at a crisis point. Not just Muslims, citizens of India.
Okay,
Because
okay.
let's never forget the BJP won 32% of the national vote in 2014 and 37 point something in 2000. So we first past the post system is like that. So the number of seats are always greater than them. But they have the levers of power in their hand. They have the media discourse in their hand. Media is on its knees begging for government advertising. You know? So that is what is happening right now. So we are at a very, very challenging time. Muslim, even narratives of Muslims being lynched. Have you seen any newspaper cover it today कि हर दिन एक hate crime हो रहा है? कोई newspaper track कर रहा है? नहीं कर रहा है. एक ज़माने में कुछ साल पहले हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स के एडिटर ने ट्रैक किया, उसको नौकरी से निकाल दिया. एक बॉबी घोष थे, he came from USA, he was made the editor, he had to leave his job because he created a hate tracker.
Okay.
This is the state of the media since 2014. So it's a very, very challenging time. Muslims are facing a systematic impoverishment. These attacks recently on Muslim bangle sellers, people in the informal sector, is also coming out from this overall economic despair. Because Muslims have made up a lot of painters, tailors, they are occupying these jobs also. You know, there's just so much of displacement, so much of unemployment, so much of hatred. A couple of factors are merging to create this climate of hate. One is brutishness in society, frustration, youth rage, cell phones. अब आपको क्राइम करना है चुपचाप से आप कर देंगे, लेकिन आप रिकॉर्ड करके अपना यू आर शोइंग ऑफ कि मैं इसको गाली बक रहा हूँ, कहाँ कि तू पाकिस्तान जाए, निकले यहाँ से. सेल फोन ने भी कंट्रीब्यूट किया है, टेक्नोलॉजी ने भी कंट्रीब्यूट किया है. इकोनॉमी, टेक्नोलॉजी, साइकोलॉजी, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, it's all coming together.
Recently, Delhi High Court has given a judgment and it has asked the central government to go for uniform civil code. And uniform civil code, you know, it's a long controversial agenda since Constituent Assembly. So, as a woman, as a member of minority community, how do you respond to that ruling, or the very top that okay, once uniform civil code will be brought, that Muslims will be stopped from marrying many women and producing.
Muslims are not marrying many women anyway. बेचारे अब they're not surviving. हाँ, ये Muslim women को जो rescue करने के लिए निकले हैं लोग, ये भी मजाक हो गया क्योंकि Muslim women are not separated from the men and their sons and their husbands and their fathers or whoever, brothers, हाँ, they're part of the same economy. तो वो तो मजाक है. अब ये छोटी मोटी चीज़ें, ये अहम चीज़ है नहीं. जिस ज़माने में वो शाबानो जजमेंट आया था, अगर कांग्रेस उसमें टैम्पर नहीं करती तो शायद बीजेपी को इतनी ताकत, इतनी आइडियोलॉजिकल
till 1984 Sahabano case, before the Sahabano case, the BJP was not touching that issue.
nowhere, बिल्कुल. तो ये सब कांग्रेस, मैं बार बार कह रही हूँ, हालांकि कभी कभी कांग्रेस के लोग शरीफ लगते हैं, राहुल गांधी भी कभी कभी तरस आ जाता है, सही बात कह रहे हैं इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, लेकिन हिस्टोरिकली जो कांग्रेस ने हर चीज़, पॉलिटिकल फाइनेंस, कम्युनलिज्म, सब चीज़ वहीं से शुरू होती है. जो उन्होंने एटीट्यूड था, जो मुल्क के जो मतलब जो स्ट्रक्चर होता है ना डेमोक्रेसी का, आपको उसको गुड हेल्थ में रखना है, आपने वो सब गड़बड़ हो गया.
अच्छा, okay. When this new government came, I think 2014, and you are a journalist, you read newspaper. Since then, Muslims women and its image as, let's say, Mazloom or that image was being propagated by, let's say, Hindutva forces and the media. Triple Talaq was outlawed. Triple Talaq was outlawed, and then Muslim personal law was projected as a villain. So how do you look at this question?
Look, I'm not a fan, लेकिन ये relevant issues मुझे नहीं लगते हैं. The issue about Muslim personal law, 10-15 years ago, I would have considered it a very important issue. लेकिन आज के दौर में जब पूरे मुस्लिम के पीछे सब लोग पड़ गए हैं, मुझे नहीं लगता ये कोई अहम इशू है। और आप मुझे देखिए, आप देखिए कि किन तरह की महिलाओं को सबसे ज़्यादा ट्रोलिंग होती है। मुस्लिम महिलाएं हैं, मीडिया की सबसे ज़्यादा आईटी सेल उनके पीछे पड़ी हुई है।
और ये भी तो देखिए तालिबान में क्या हुआ, उसके लिए सरकार से कोई नहीं पूछता है, पूछा जाता है
आपने देखा तालिबान के बाद जिस तरह की मजबूत, खूबसूरत, ताकतवर अफगान खवातीन बोल रही हैं रोज। हाँ, तो ये सोचना कि कुछ हम लोग ये गलत सोच होगी, बिल्कुल गलत बात है ये।
ओके, सो
ये यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड मुझे नहीं लगता आज के दौर में ये लोग डॉग विस्लिंग, इट माइट बी डॉग विस्लिंग अगेंस्ट मुस्लिम्स अगेन, लेकिन आई डोंट थिंक इट्स अ पीपल्स इशू इज अ डिलिबरेट क्रिमिनलाइजेशन। आप रोज क्राइम्स हो रहे हैं और कोई कुछ कर नहीं रहा है। यही है यही है पॉलिटिक्स अब, कि हमने मुस्लिम को ठोक दिया, मुस्लिम को सिखा दिया। हिंदी बेल्ट की यही है पॉलिटिक्स अब।
Okay. So on the questions of reforms, there are at least two positions. Let's say the Muslim minority say that personal laws and these issues are part of their faith, and the majoritarian state will do best to leave them untouched. On the other hand, there is an argument that no, Muslims women are suffering. So
I don't think it's a very important issue right now. I don't even want to get into it.
Okay.
ये हर चीज क्यों सपोर्ट करो तो डैम, नहीं सपोर्ट करो तो डैम, इस तरह के इश्यूज है। मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है इस पे। हाँ, और ये जिंदा रहने के सवाल खड़े हो गए हैं।
आपको लगता है कि जिंदा रहने वाले सवाल अभी
ज्यादा अहम है नॉर्थ इंडिया के मुसलमानों के लिए।
जी, बस
कि इज्जत से जी पाए,
जी,
दो रोटी कमा ले, इज्जत से, कोई उनको मारे नहीं, पीटे नहीं, बच्चों को मारे नहीं, पीटे नहीं। यही है मुद्दा मुसलमानों के सामने। और इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर में जो हो रहा है वो सबसे अहम चीज़ है, और इससे कोई इलेक्शन से कोई बच नहीं पाएगा, चाहे कल बीजेपी हार भी जाए इलेक्शन। ये जो फोर्स अब आ गई है नॉर्थ इंडिया में, ये नहीं रुकेगी।
अच्छा, ओके, सो द लास्ट क्वेश्चन नाउ, आवर कन्वर्सेशन इज ऑलमोस्ट डन। एनीथिंग यू वुड लाइक टू से टू पीपल, सिटीजन, minorities, women, lower caste people, for saving this secular democracy, because we are really living in a very hard time. Any reflex, anything you want to say, just concluding remarks?
I would just say that keep our humanity alive, number one, and number two, be logical. Look at what a government is there to deliver, a better quality of life, not a more heightened level of prejudice. Has anyone's economic life improved? That's my question to people. Think in rational terms, not through the prism of hatred, identity. That's all I can say.